The USS Horizon drifted through the dark void of space like a metal island carrying the hopes of humanity. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main view screen. His weathered hands gripped the railing as he studied the blue-green planet growing larger ahead of them. After 18 months of traveling through empty space, they had finally reached their destination in the Kepler 442 system. Distance to the planet's surface? Morrison asked his navigation officer. 3 million kilometers and closing, Captain, replied Lieutenant Tony Martinez from his station. We should reach orbit in 6 hours. Morrison nodded and turned to his science officer. Dr. Lisa Palmer was hunched over her console, her blonde hair falling across her face as she studied the readings. She had been the one to convince Earth Command that this system might hold intelligent life. The radio signals they had detected 2 years ago were too complex to be natural. Any signs of civilization down there, Doctor? Morrison asked. Palmer looked up with tired but excited eyes. The electromagnetic readings are stronger than ever, Captain. Whatever is sending those signals is definitely artificial. The patterns suggest a highly advanced society. The bridge crew exchanged glances. They were part of humanity's first deep space colonization mission, carrying 200 souls to establish a new world. If intelligent aliens already lived on their target planet, everything would change. First contact protocols were clear, but untested. Should we send a message? Asked Communications Officer Ben Clark. He was young and eager, fresh from the academy. Let them know we're coming? Morrison considered this. Not yet. Let's get a better look at what we're dealing with first. All stations, maintain communication. Silence until further notice. The hours passed slowly as the horizon approached the planet. The crew named it New Eden during the journey, but now that name felt presumptuous. Through the ship's powerful telescopes, they could see cities scattered across the continents. Massive structures that seemed to blend with the natural landscape. Whatever lived here had mastered architecture beyond human understanding. Palmer worked frantically at her station, trying to decode the alien transmissions. The signals came in bursts, like coded messages between distant locations. She had studied xenolinguistics for years, preparing for this moment. But the reality was far more complex than any simulation. Captain, I'm detecting movement in orbit, reported Security Chief Amy Rodriguez. Her dark eyes were focused on the tactical display. Multiple objects approaching from the far side of the planet. Morrison straightened. On screen, the view screen flickered and showed sleek vessels moving toward them. They were unlike anything in human ship design, flowing and organic in shape. They reminded Morrison of predatory fish, all smooth curves and menacing grace. 15 ships, Captain, Rodriguez continued. They're not broadcasting any signals. Just ... watching us. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ships. Systems. Morrison felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Whatever happened next would determine the future of human space exploration. Dr. Palmer, any luck with those transmissions? He asked. Palmer shook her head. The language is completely alien, Captain. But the tone, it feels aggressive. Like military communications during a crisis. One of the alien ships moved closer, stopping just outside weapon range. Morrison could see details on its hull now. The metal looked almost alive, shifting and rippling. Strange symbols glowed along its surface. Incoming transmission, Clark announced. They're using our own radio frequencies. Put it through, Morrison. Ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a sound like grinding metal mixed with howling wind. Gradually, words formed in broken English. Small soft things. You enter hunt ground. Why you come feeding place? Morrison stepped forward. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Horizon. We come in peace, seeking to establish friendly relations. More static than what might have been laughter. Peace is weakness. Hunt-ground-belongs-strong-ones. You smell fear meat. Palmer grabbed Morrison's arm. Captain, I don't think they understand our intentions. Their language suggests a predator-based culture. Before Morrison could respond, the alien ship fired a warning shot across the horizon's bow. The energy beam lit up space like blue lightning. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Shields up, Morrison shouted. All hands to battle stations. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Rodriguez coordinated the defensive systems while Martinez plotted evasive maneuvers. Palmer continued trying to establish communication, but the alien responses grew increasingly hostile. They're demanding we surrender our ship, she reported. Something about ... hunting rights? Morrison made a decision that would haunt him for years. Take us down to the planet's surface. If they want to hunt, we'll make them work for it. The Horizon descended through the atmosphere with 15 alien ships in pursuit. The planet's surface was beautiful, covered in purple forests and silver rivers. But Morrison had no time to appreciate the scenery. They needed to find a defensible position. Landing site selected, Martinez announced. Large valley with rocky outcroppings. Good cover for ground operations. The ship touched down with a thunderous roar. Immediately, Morrison began issuing orders. All non-essential personnel to the lower decks. Security teams prepare for ground combat. Science teams gather what data you can. Through the view screen, they watched the alien ships land in a circle around them. Figures emerged from the vessels, and Morrison's blood ran cold. The aliens were tall and lean, covered in dark fur. They moved like wolves, but walked upright. Like humans. Their eyes glowed in the alien twilight, and their claws caught the light of the setting sun. They're beautiful, Palmer whispered, and terrifying. The alien leader stepped forward. He was larger than the others, with silver streaks in his fur and scars across his face. When he spoke, his voice carried easily across the distance. I-M-K-R-Hunt-Master-of-V EL single quotes tar. You soft things now become prey hunt begins when star dies. Morrison activated the ship's external speakers. We don't want to fight you. We're explorers, not warriors. Crowd's laugh was like breaking glass. All weak things say sane words. Then they run and die like pray should. The alien force began setting up camp, preparing for what they clearly considered a hunt rather than a battle. Morrison gathered his senior staff in the conference room. The situation was desperate, but giving up wasn't an option. Options? He asked. Rodriguez was blunt. We're outnumbered and outgunned. These things are built for hunting. Our weapons might slow them down, but they won't stop them. Palmer had been quiet, studying her readings. Captain, there's something strange about their behavior. They could have attacked immediately, but they're waiting, like they're following some kind of ritual. A hunting ritual, Morrison realized. They're giving us time to prepare because it makes the hunt more interesting for them. Clark looked terrified. So we're just sport to them? Maybe, Morrison said. But that also means they'll underestimate us. We need to use that advantage. As night fell over New Eden, the human crew prepared for a battle they couldn't win. But none of them realized that humanity possessed something the Velkari had never encountered. Something that would change everything. The first 3 days of the siege were hell. The Velkari had surrounded the human position completely, cutting off all escape routes. They moved through the purple forests like shadows, striking at human patrols and vanishing before anyone could return fire. Lieutenant Commander Steve Johnson led the Marine squads in desperate guerrilla tactics. but they were fighting a losing battle. "Report," Captain Morrison demanded as Johnson stumbled into the command bunker. The Marine's uniform was torn and bloody, his face grim with exhaustion. "We lost Martinez and 3 others in the eastern sector," Johnson said. "These things move faster than anything I've ever seen. They know where we are before we know where they are. Our thermal sensors are useless against them." Morrison felt each death like a personal failure. The Velkari weren't just killing his crew. They were hunting them for sport. Every attack was calculated to cause maximum fear and confusion. Bodies were left in specific locations to be found by other humans. It was psychological warfare at its worst. Dr. Palmer looked up from her workstation in the corner of the bunker. She had been studying the alien behavior patterns for days, trying to find some weakness they could exploit. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she refused to rest. "Captain, I need to show you something," she said urgently. "I've been analyzing the recordings from every human Velkari encounter we've had. There's a pattern I don't understand." Morrison moved to her station, followed by Security Chief Rodriguez and Engineer Kate Sullivan. Palmer had multiple screens showing video feeds from the battles. She pointed to specific moments in each recording. "Watch carefully," Palmer said. "In every engagement, there comes a moment when the Velkari hesitate, not because of our weapons or tactics, but because of something else entirely." She played the first recording. It showed Corporal Alex Wright defending a group of injured civilians from 3 Velkari hunters. Wright was outnumbered and outgunned, but he stood his ground. At the crucial moment, something changed in his stance and expression. The Velkari, who had been advancing confidently, suddenly stopped and backed away. "I see it," Rodriguez said. "But what caused it?" Palmer switched to another recording. This one showed Nurse Danny Foster protecting medical supplies from a Velkari. Raiding party. Again, at the moment of greatest danger, Foster's entire demeanor shifted. The attacking aliens retreated without explanation. "It's not fear," Palmer explained. "Watch their body language. They're not afraid of our weapons or our numbers. They're afraid of something else, something about us." Morrison studied the recordings carefully. In each case, the human involved was protecting someone or something important to them. The change in behavior was subtle but unmistakable. It was as if a switch had been flipped inside them. "What are you thinking, Doctor?" Morrison asked. Palmer pulled up brain scan data from the ship's medical bay. "I had Wright report to medical after his encounter. I wanted to check for concussion, but I found something else. Look at these neural patterns." The brain scans showed unusual activity in areas associated with emotion and instinct. Palmer highlighted specific regions that were firing in patterns she had never seen before. "This is Wright's brain during normal conversation," she said, showing a baseline scan. "And this is his brain during the encounter with the Velkari." The difference was dramatic. Entire sections of Wright's brain were operating at levels far above normal human ranges. It was as if his mind had temporarily evolved into something beyond human capacity. "I think we're looking at a defense mechanism," Palmer continued. "Something that evolution gave us to deal with predators stronger than ourselves. When humans reach a certain psychological threshold, we become something else entirely." Sullivan looked skeptical. "That sounds like science fiction, Doctor." "Everything we've encountered in the last week would have been science fiction a year ago," Palmer replied. "I think this ability is triggered by extreme protective instincts. When humans are defending something they care about, they can access a level of psychological intensity that other species interpret as a threat." Morrison was beginning to understand. "You're saying we have a natural weapon we didn't know about?" "More than that," Palmer said. "I think this ability is why humans were never completely wiped out by larger predators on Earth. We're not the strongest or fastest species, but we have something that makes other predators avoid us when we reach our full potential. Rodriguez was studying the tactical implications. Can we weaponize this? Use it against the Velkari? Palmer hesitated. I think so, but it's not something you can just turn on and off. The emotional state required is genuine. You can't fake it or force it. It has to come from a real desire to protect something important. Outside the bunker, they could hear the Velkari moving through the forest. Their hunting calls echoed through the night, a sound that made human blood freeze. Morrison knew they didn't have much time left. Doctor, I need you to figure out how to trigger this ability deliberately, he said. Find volunteers who are willing to try. We need every advantage we can get. Palmer nodded grimly. I'll need to put people in genuine danger to test this. The psychological stress has to be real. Do whatever you have to do, Morrison replied. If this ability is real, it might be our only chance of survival. The next morning brought worse. News. The Velkari had tightened their siege, moving closer to the human positions. Huntmaster Kraft had grown tired of the slow hunt and was preparing for a final assault. His warriors were eager to end the game and claim their trophies. Palmer worked frantically with a small group of volunteers. Wright and Rodriguez had agreed to help, along with Foster and several other crew members who had shown signs of the unusual behavior. The testing was dangerous and exhausting, but gradually Palmer began to understand how the ability worked. It's not just about protecting others, she explained to Morrison. It's about reaching a state of absolute commitment. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything for what you're defending. The Velkari can sense that level of dedication, and it triggers something in their own instincts. The first successful test came when Wright defended a group of holographic civilians in Palmer's virtual reality chamber. The moment he achieved the necessary emotional state, every monitoring device in the room went wild. His brain activity spiked beyond normal human levels, and he began emitting pheromones that even humans could detect. My God, Palmer whispered. He's not just changing psychologically. He's changing physically, too. His body is releasing chemicals that affect other species at a biological level. Morrison realized they had discovered something that could change the course of human history. But first, they had to survive long enough to use it. The Velkari were preparing for their final attack, and humanity's secret weapon was still untested. In real combat, outside in the forest, Huntmaster Kraft issued his final challenge. Tomorrow, the hunt would end with the complete destruction of the human colony. He had no idea that his prey was about to become something far more dangerous than he could imagine. The virtual reality chamber hummed with energy as Dr. Palmer prepared another test subject. The training was brutal, forcing volunteers to experience their worst fears to trigger the protective response she had discovered. Wright sat in the corner, still shaking from his latest session. The psychological toll was enormous, but they were making progress. Are you ready, Danny? Palmer asked Nurse Foster as he stepped into the simulation chamber. Foster nodded, though his hands were trembling. What do I have to do? The same as before, Palmer explained. You'll see patients under attack by Velkari. Your job is to protect them. Remember, the emotional response has to be genuine. You can't hold anything back. The simulation began, and Foster found himself in a field hospital under siege. Wounded humans lay helpless on stretchers, while Velkari hunters stalked through. The medical bay. Foster's training kicked in as he moved to shield the patients with his own body. At first, nothing happened. Foster fought bravely, but normally, using standard defensive techniques. Then one of the simulated Velkari reached for an injured child. Something deep inside Foster snapped. His entire posture changed, and a low growl escaped his throat. Monitoring equipment went crazy. Palmer watched in amazement as Foster's brain activity spiked beyond human norms. His body began releasing the same chemical cocktail they had detected in Wright. In the simulation, the Velkari hunters stopped their advance and began backing away from Foster. "Incredible," Palmer whispered. "He's doing it. He's actually doing it." Captain Morrison watched from the observation deck. "How long can he maintain that state?" "Not long," Palmer replied. "The physical and emotional stress is enormous. Look at his vital signs." Foster's heart rate was approaching dangerous levels. His body temperature had risen significantly, and his brain was consuming oxygen at an unsustainable rate. After less than 2 minutes in the enhanced state, he collapsed. "Get him to medical," Morrison ordered. "Doctor, we need to find a way to extend this ability or use it more efficiently." Palmer helped carry Foster to the medical bay. "I'm working on it, Captain, but I think we're looking at this wrong. Maybe the ability isn't meant to be sustained. Maybe it's supposed to be used in short bursts." While Palmer continued her research, the situation outside was deteriorating rapidly. The Velkari had moved their forces closer to the human position. Huntmaster Croft had decided to end the hunt with a massive coordinated assault. His warriors were growing restless, eager to claim their trophies and move on to new hunting grounds. Security. Chief Rodriguez received the bad news through her surveillance network. "Captain, they're massing for a final attack. I count at least 200 Velkari warriors moving into position. They'll hit us from all sides at dawn." Morrison felt the weight of command pressing down on him. 200 of his people were counting on him to find a solution. The Guardian Protocol, as Palmer had started calling it, was their only hope. "How many volunteers have successfully triggered the ability?" he asked Palmer. 7, including Wright and Foster," she replied. "But the physical cost is enormous. Each person can only use it once or twice before complete exhaustion." Morrison did the math. 7 humans with a temporary advantage against 200 alien predators. The odds were impossible, but they had to try. "There's something else," Palmer continued. "I've been analyzing the Velkari themselves. They have the same neurological structures that enable the Guardian Protocol. Their brains are capable of the same enhanced state." "Are you saying they could develop this ability too?" "I'm saying they might already have it," Palmer explained. "Their entire culture is built around hunting and dominance. They may have suppressed their own protective instincts in favor of predatory behavior." Morrison was intrigued. "Could we use that against them?" "I don't know. But I think the Guardian Protocol is more than just a defense mechanism. It might be an evolutionary step that transcends the predator-prey relationship entirely." Before Morrison could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations. Velkari forces are moving into final position." The human defenders prepared for what they knew would be their last battle. Morrison positioned the 7 volunteers at strategic points throughout their defensive perimeter. Wright and Foster were still weak from their training, but they insisted on participating. "Remember," Palmer told each volunteer, "the ability only works when you're genuinely protecting something important. Don't try to force it. Let it come naturally." As the alien sun began to rise over New Eden, the Velkari attack commenced. They moved like a coordinated pack, using their superior speed and senses to maximum advantage. Human weapons fire lit up the dawn sky, but the aliens seemed to flow around the defensive positions like water. The first test of the Guardian Protocol came when Wright's position was overrun. 3 Velkari hunters had broken through the human lines and were advancing. On the command bunker, Wright stood alone between them and the civilians sheltering inside. As the aliens closed in, Wright felt the familiar sensation building inside him. His vision sharpened, his muscles tensed, and something primal awoke in his mind. The Velkari hunters suddenly stopped their advance, confusion visible in their glowing eyes. For a moment, Predator and prey faced each other in a standoff that defied explanation. Then the Velkari began to retreat, their instincts overriding their conscious training. Wright had successfully triggered the Guardian Protocol in combat conditions, but the victory came at a cost. Wright collapsed from exhaustion, leaving that section of the defense vulnerable. The Velkari quickly regrouped and found ways around the isolated pockets of human resistance. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Each volunteer successfully triggered the Guardian Protocol, but the effect was temporary and localized. The Velkari were learning to avoid the enhanced humans and strike at undefended positions. Palmer watched the battle from the command center, her mind racing. "Captain, this isn't working. We're using the ability individually, but the Velkari are fighting as a coordinated group." "What are you suggesting?" Morrison asked. "What if we could trigger the Guardian Protocol in multiple people simultaneously? Create a psychological field that affects a larger area?" Morrison realized what she was proposing. "You want to coordinate the response across the entire defensive line." "Exactly. If we could synchronize the activation, the combined effect might be powerful enough to affect the entire Velkari force." The idea was brilliant, but dangerous. Coordinating the Guardian Protocol would require precise timing and enormous psychological strain on the participants. But as Morrison watched his people being systematically overwhelmed, he knew they had no choice. "Do it," he ordered. "Whatever it takes." Palmer began coordinating with the remaining volunteers, preparing for one final desperate gambit. They would either trigger the Guardian Protocol simultaneously and save the colony, or exhaust themselves completely and face certain death. Outside, Huntmaster Krath sensed that something was changing in the battle. His warriors were reporting strange hesitations and unexplained retreats. For the first time in his life, the legendary hunter felt a tremor of uncertainty. These humans were different from any prey he had ever encountered. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash. Dr. Palmer worked frantically in her makeshift laboratory, surrounded by ancient alien texts and genetic analysis equipment. The battle raged outside, but she had made a discovery that could change everything. Her hands shook as she cross-referenced genetic samples from both humans and Velkari, looking for the connection she suspected existed. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out to Morrison, who was coordinating the defense from the command center. Morrison hurried over, his face grim with the weight of casualties. "What is it, Doctor?" Palmer displayed her findings on the main screen. "I've been analyzing genetic samples from the Velkari we collected during the early skirmishes. Look at this neural mapping." The screen showed two brain scans side by side. One was clearly human, the other belonged to a Velkari warrior. Despite their different species, certain structures were remarkably similar. "They have the same neurological pathways that enable the Guardian Protocol," Palmer explained. "The same brain regions, the same chemical receptors. They're capable of the same enhanced state we discovered in humans." Morrison studied the data. "But they're predators. They hunt other species for sport." "That's exactly the point," Palmer continued. "I think the Guardian Protocol isn't just about protection. It's about transcending the predator-prey relationship entirely. The Velkari have suppressed their own protective instincts in favor of hunting behavior." Palmer pulled up more data from her research. "I've been studying ancient texts from multiple civilizations. There are references to beings called the Silent Ones, or the Guardians, throughout galactic history. Species that could make predators retreat without violence. You think humans aren't the first to develop this ability?" "I think we're the first to understand it and potentially weaponize it," Palmer replied. "But more importantly, we might be the first to recognize it as an evolutionary step forward." Morrison was beginning to grasp the implications. "You're saying this ability could spread to other species?" I'm saying it might already exist in other species, waiting to be awakened. The Guardian Protocol could be a dormant trait that emerges when civilizations reach a certain level of consciousness. Their conversation was interrupted by another wave of Velkari attacks. The aliens had adapted to the human defensive positions and were pressing their advantage. Security Chief Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom with urgent updates. Captain, we're losing ground on all fronts. The volunteers are exhausted, and the Velkari are learning to avoid the areas where we've triggered the Guardian Protocol. Morrison returned to the tactical display. The situation was desperate. His people were fighting bravely, but they were being systematically overwhelmed. The discovery of the Guardian Protocol had given them hope, but it wasn't enough to turn the tide. Doctor, can you trigger this ability in the Velkari themselves? He asked. Palmer looked stunned. I don't know. Theoretically, yes. But it would require them to access emotions they've spent generations suppressing. Their entire culture is built around predatory dominance. What would it take? Palmer thought quickly. They'd need to experience genuine protective instincts, to care about something more than their own survival or dominance. It would be a complete psychological transformation. Morrison made a decision that would define the rest of his life. I'm going to try to communicate with their leader. If we can reach one of them, maybe we can reach others. Captain, that's suicide, Rodriguez protested. Krath has made it clear he sees us as nothing but prey. Maybe, Morrison replied. But if Dr. Palmer is right, there's something deeper in him that we can appeal to. Something that remembers what it means to protect rather than destroy. Palmer grabbed Morrison's arm. Wait, if you're going to try this, you need to understand something. The Guardian Protocol isn't just about individual protection. It's about protecting the future of consciousness itself. If we can awaken this ability in the Velkari, we could be starting a revolution that spreads across the galaxy. Morrison felt the weight of history pressing down on him. What are you saying? I'm saying that what happens here might determine whether civilization evolves beyond predator-prey relationships or stays trapped in cycles of violence forever. The implications were staggering. Morrison realized they weren't just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for the future of intelligent life throughout the universe. Captain, incoming transmission from the Velkari, Communications Officer Clark announced. It's Huntmaster Krath. Morrison activated the communication system. Krath's voice filled the command center, as cold and menacing as ever. Human leader, your soft warriors fight, better than expected. But hunt ends now. Surrender and death will be swift. Morrison took a deep breath. Krath, I want to show you something. Something that might change how you see this conflict. Krath's laugh was like breaking glass. Prey does not bargain with hunter. You have nothing to offer. I want to show you what we really are, Morrison continued. What you could become if you chose a different path. There was a long pause. Then Krath spoke again, his voice curious despite his hostility. You speak strangely for a dying creature. What do you mean? Palmer stepped forward. Krath, you and your people have the same neural capacity that allows humans to trigger the Guardian Protocol. You're not just predators. You're capable of becoming protectors. Protectors are weak. Strong ones hunt. Weak ones die. That's what your culture has taught you, Palmer replied. But your biology tells a different story. You have the same brain structures that enable protective instincts. You've just been conditioned to suppress them. Morrison could sense uncertainty. In Krath's voice, you speak of impossible things. Let me prove it to you, Morrison said. Meet me in the valley between our positions. No weapons, no warriors. Just two beings trying to understand each other. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew Morrison was proposing something that could end the conflict one way or another. Either he would reach something deeper in Krath, or he would be torn apart by the Velkari leader. After what felt like hours, Krath responded, "You would trust hunter with your life. I would trust whatever part of you remembers what it means to protect something greater than yourself." Morrison replied. Another long pause. Then, 1 hour, Valley Center. You come alone or all your people die. Double quotes. The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his senior staff. "Doctor, I need you to monitor everything that happens out there. If this works, we need to understand how to replicate it." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Captain, I can't let you do this alone." "You have to," Morrison replied. "This isn't about military tactics anymore. It's about reaching something that transcends the predator-prey relationship. If Palmer is right, what happens in that valley could determine the future of galactic civilization." As Morrison prepared to leave the safety of the human position, Palmer made final preparations for what might be the most important scientific observation in human history. Outside, Huntmaster Krath was also preparing for a meeting that would challenge everything he believed about strength, weakness, and the nature of consciousness itself. The fate of 2 species, and possibly the entire galaxy, hung in the balance of a conversation between natural enemies who might discover they were more alike than either had imagined. The valley stretched between the 2 forces like a no-man's land bathed in the light of the alien sun. Captain Morrison walked slowly toward the center, his heart pounding with each step. Behind him, the human defenders watched from their positions, while ahead the Velkari hunters observed from the tree line with predatory intensity. Huntmaster Krath emerged from the forest, moving with the fluid grace of a born killer. His silver-streaked fur caught the sunlight, and his yellow eyes never left Morrison's face. The 2 leaders stopped 10 meters apart, natural enemies meeting in the space between war and peace. "You come as promised," Krath said, his voice carrying easily across the distance. "I smell no fear on you. Strange for prey creature." Morrison stood his ground, feeling the weight of 200 lives depending on his words. "I'm not here as prey, Krath. I'm here as someone who believes we're more alike than you think." Krath's laugh was harsh. "Alike? You soft weak thing. I am apex hunter of 12 worlds. We are nothing similar. Dr. Palmer told me about your neural structure," Morrison continued. "You have the same brain pathways that allow humans to trigger the Guardian Protocol. The same capacity for protection that we discovered in ourselves." The Velkari leader's eyes narrowed. "You speak of weakness. Protectors die quickly in hunt. Do they?" Morrison asked. "Or do they transcend hunting altogether?" For the first time, Krath hesitated. Something in Morrison's voice carried a conviction that the alien found disturbing. "What do you mean?" Morrison took a careful step forward. "Your people have been hunting across the galaxy for generations. How many worlds have you conquered? How many species have you destroyed?" 12 worlds bow to Velkari strength," Krath replied proudly. "Many prey species become memory only." "And what did that give you?" Morrison pressed. "Are you happier? Are your people more fulfilled? Or are you just empty predators moving from one hunt to the next?" Krath's claws extended instinctively, but he didn't attack. Strength is purpose. Hunt gives meaning. "Does it?" Morrison asked. "Or does it just fill the void where meaning should be?" The conversation was interrupted by movement in the human defensive line. Dr. Palmer was coordinating the volunteers for one final attempt at the Guardian Protocol. Wright, Foster, and the others were preparing to trigger the ability simultaneously, creating a psychological field that might affect the entire Velkari force. "Watch carefully," Morrison said to Krath. I want to show you what humans become when we're truly committed to protecting something. A first volunteer activated the Guardian Protocol. Wright's brain patterns spiked beyond normal human ranges as he entered the enhanced state. Across the battlefield, other volunteers followed suit. Foster at the medical station, Rodriguez at the command center, and 3 others at strategic positions throughout the defensive line. The effect was immediate and profound. The combined psychological pressure created a field of protective energy that reached across the entire valley. Velkari warriors who had been advancing confidently suddenly stopped, confusion replacing their predatory focus. Krath felt the wave of protective energy wash over him like a physical force. For the first time in his life, he experienced the Guardian Protocol from the receiving end. The sensation was overwhelming, triggering responses in his own neural pathways that had been dormant for generations. What dash is this? Krath gasped, his voice filled with wonder and terror. This is what we become when we choose to protect instead of destroy, Morrison explained. And according to Dr. Palmer, you're capable of the same transformation. Krath's entire worldview was crumbling. The humans weren't just prey anymore. They were something else entirely, something that challenged everything he had been taught about strength and weakness. Impossible, Krath whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. Morrison saw the uncertainty in the alien leader's eyes. Feel what's happening inside you right now. That's not weakness, Krath. That's the same power that allows humans to face impossible odds and protect what matters to them. The psychological field generated by the human volunteers was having an unexpected effect on the Velkari forces. Warriors who had spent their lives hunting were experiencing protective instincts. For the first time, some were looking at their fellow hunters with new eyes, seeing companions rather than competitors. Krath was struggling with sensations he had never experienced before. The Guardian Protocol was awakening dormant parts of his consciousness, showing him glimpses of what his people could become if they chose a different path. You offer alternative to hunt? He asked, his voice barely audible. I offer evolution, Morrison replied. The chance to become something greater than predator or prey. To transcend the cycle of violence and become protectors of life itself. Palmer's voice crackled through Morrison's communicator. Captain, the effect is spreading. Some of the Velkari are beginning to trigger their own Guardian Protocol. Their brain patterns are shifting. Morrison felt hope rising in his chest. Krath, your people are beginning to awaken. You can choose to lead them forward or hold them back. The Velkari leader looked out at his warriors, seeing confusion and uncertainty where once there had been only predatory focus. Some were approaching the human defensive line not as attackers, but as beings seeking to understand what they were experiencing. If we choose this path, Krath said slowly, what becomes of hunt culture? It becomes something better, Morrison replied. Instead of hunting to destroy, you hunt to protect. Instead of conquering worlds, you help them grow. Instead of being apex predators, you become apex guardians. The transformation was visible in Krath's posture and expression. The rigid predatory stance was softening, replaced by something more complex and nuanced. His eyes, which had always held the cold focus of a hunter, now showed curiosity and even compassion. Show me how, Krath said finally. Morrison smiled. Think of something you want to protect. Not conquer or possess, but genuinely protect. Something that matters more than your own survival. Krath closed his eyes, searching his memory. Images flashed through his mind. Young Velkari learning to hunt. Elders sharing stories of past victories. The beauty of his homeworld's silver forests. But then he found something deeper. A memory of his first hunt, when he had saved a younger warrior. From a deadly predator. The Guardian Protocol activated in Krath like a dam bursting. His neural pathways exploded with activity as dormant protective instincts awakened. The sensation was overwhelming, transforming him from hunter to guardian in a single moment of revelation. The effect rippled through the Volcari forces like a wave. Warriors who had felt the stirring of protective instincts suddenly understood what was happening to them. They began triggering their own guardian protocol, creating a feedback loop of protective energy that spread across the entire battlefield. "By the ancestors," Krath whispered, his voice filled with awe. "We have been blind to our own nature." Morrison felt tears of relief streaming down his face. "Welcome to the next stage of evolution, Krath. The battle ended not with victory or defeat, but with transformation. Velkari and humans stood together in the valley, no longer predators and prey, but fellow guardians of something greater than themselves." Dr. Palmer emerged from the human position, her scientific equipment recording everything. "Captain, we're witnessing the birth of a new form of consciousness. The Guardian Protocol is spreading naturally now, awakening in both species simultaneously." Krath approached Palmer with newfound respect. "Dr. Palmer, teach us to understand this gift." The weeks that followed saw the establishment of the first human Velkari Cooperation Center. Palmer's research station became a training facility where both species learned to develop the Guardian Protocol. The discovery spread throughout the galaxy, attracting other species who sought to transcend their own predatory or prey instincts. Morrison submitted his final report to Earth, command with a mixture of pride and humility. Humanity had found their role in galactic civilization, not as conquerors or diplomats, but as teachers of consciousness itself. The Guardian Protocol became humanity's greatest gift to the universe, proving that the species which appeared weakest might actually be the strongest of all. In the years that followed, the galaxy began to change. Predator species learned to become protectors, while prey species discovered their own hidden strength. The cycle of violence that had dominated galactic history for millennia was slowly being replaced by something unprecedented, a community of guardians working together to protect and nurture life throughout the universe. The unique human ability that made deadly alien predators retreat had become the foundation for a new era of galactic peace, one consciousness at a time.